Good evening. Thank you to Stanley Heller and the organizers of this meeting for inviting me to address you tonight. I'm sorry that I'm not able to be with you in person. Whereas next I'd be inclined to thank everyone listening for being here, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because I firmly believe that it is the moral obligation of each and every one of us to be here, to be out in the streets, to be on the phone to our elected representatives, to be on the phone to the White House saying, stop the slaughter in Gaza. Stop the whole-scale maiming and killing of children. In the last 3 weeks, over 250 children burned, mangled, or torn to pieces on a makeshift playground, on the beach, huddled in the darkness with their families as the non-stop sound of missiles explode all around them, or even in their sleep. Despite this carnage, the U.S. Senate had no problem swiftly passing a unanimous 100-0, not one dissenter, a unanimous resolution unequivocally declaring U.S. support for Israel. And yesterday it was announced that the U.S. is currently resupplying Israel with weapons. And they can do that. They can do that because we haven't been and we're not being loud enough. And loud not just when the bombs are falling, but even when they're not, and Palestinians are locked in their prison camps, deprived of basic necessities and the simple right to lead a dignified life. But as horrifying news continues to come out of Gaza, images of parents, instead of taking their children to the playground, carrying their children to the grave, let us not feel disheartened or disempowered, for we do not have that luxury. In order to stop these massacres and Israel's ongoing occupation and colonial apartheid regime, we must inspire and motivate each other to keep working for an end to these atrocities. Let us take inspiration from the tens of thousands around the world, hundreds of thousands that have taken to the streets. 100,000 in London 2 weeks ago, another 50,000 last week, 10,000 in Chicago, 6,000 in San Francisco, and many, many more in dozens of countries around the world, and we can do better. 5 Latin American countries have already recalled their ambassadors from Israel, and hopefully that's just the beginning. A growing number of stars are speaking out. And most importantly, let us take our inspiration from the Palestinian people, who teach life with their steadfastness. 6 years ago, I was part of an international civilian effort to challenge Israel's criminal blockade on the Gaza Strip by sea. 44 people from 16 countries took 2 small, dilapidated fishing boats and sailed from Cyprus to Gaza in defiance of Israel's control. Despite the fact that most of the people on our boats came from the U.S. and various European countries that enable Israel's oppression of the Palestinian people and the very Israeli policies designed to cripple or annihilate them. Despite this, we were so warmly received. And perhaps the most warmly received, the one Israeli that was with us. We were received with such heart-bursting love and joy, a joy that was the antithesis of the extreme agony that the Palestinians are faced to endure day in and day out. A friend and farmer in the West Bank perhaps embodied this steadfastness and resilience best for me over 10 years ago. I was in his small village, preparing for a protest the next morning over Israel's demolition of farmland to build its apartheid wall. Coming into the village, I saw an endless number of trees that had been uprooted, and I could not shake that image or the devastation. That evening, my friend was trying hard to tell jokes and make me laugh. But I wasn't in any mood to laugh. And I finally said, Sam, how can you laugh at a time like this? He said, you know what, Huwaida? Those trees that you saw coming into the village, many of them belonged to my father, passed down to me, and I was supposed to pass them down to my children, our source of livelihood. Gone. And so, yes, I should probably be crying, not laughing. But that is one thing we cannot allow them to take away from us, Huwaida. Our ability to laugh and to live. And so if people who have never known a day of freedom in their life can have that kind of determination, what is our excuse? So let us turn our tears into anger and our anger into action for the children of Gaza who have seen what no child should ever have to see, who lay their heads down tonight hungry and thirsty, asking, am I going to die tonight? For all the children of Palestine and for our own children, we must work to end our own complicity in these crimes against humanity. We have a role to play in making this world the kind of world that we want our children and our children's children to grow up in. So let's take to the streets, let's raise our voices, and let's make sure that we are heard. This must stop.